Now to South Korea, where President Park Geun-hye's offer to step down following widespread popular protests could sink the nation's already stagnant economy to new depths. The Consumer Confidence Index dipped to a 7-year low in November. That's according to the Bank of Korea. Just 1 month after the nation's exports, which account for more than 40% of gross domestic product, fell 3.2% compared with a year earlier. A closer look in this next report.
These latest developments are all my fault and were caused by my carelessness.
Park Geun-hye was elected as president of South Korea on a campaign against corruption. Now she's staring down a possible impeachment and potentially even criminal charges for her role as an accomplice in a major nationwide scandal. Hundreds of thousands are gathering across the country for their 5th straight week of protests against Park, the largest demonstrations Korea has seen in decades.
Park Geun-hye, as a criminal, is neither qualified nor capable of being a president.
She needs to step down immediately. I hope the government takes action.
The allegations against Park center around her relationship with longtime friend Choi Soon-sil, who allegedly wielded an unhealthy influence over Park and interfered in government policy despite holding no official post. Prosecution suggests that Park coerced corporations, including Samsung and Hyundai, to donate tens of millions of dollars to Choi's non-profits, who then siphoned off large portions of the donations for private use. The scandal was a family affair too. Choi's late father, the founder of a shamanistic cult, allegedly convinced Park he could communicate with her deceased parents through rituals. The accusations have dropped Park's approval rating below 5% nationwide, the lowest of any Korean president in history. Experts increasingly agree that the political career of the country's first female president could be nearing its end.
There's almost zero chance the impeachment will not be passed.
The scandal is weighing down heavily on the South Korean economy. Exports, the key economic driver, continue to post negative monthly growth, and household debt is approaching a historic high. The current finance minister warned that the lack of political leadership is preventing the country from confronting the serious economic challenges facing it. Years ago, Park promoted her 4-7-4 vision, her economic plan to reach 4% growth, 70% employment, and an average per capita income of $40,000. But investors are wary of entangling themselves in the South Korean uncertainty.
Investor confidence is expected to be reduced, and this could have negative effects on the Korean economy and business investment next year.
South Korea is struggling to cope with corruption at the highest echelons of political leadership. And if the scandal drags on, the country's economy will pay the price.
With me now in studio are Reshef, Israel-Asia business consultant, and Sam Chester, Chinese economy analyst. Thank you both for joining me today. Well, let's begin discussing the political situation in South Korea. The president is accused of corruption. Every single leader in South Korea has been accused of corruption since the founding of that democratic apparatus. To risk asking a naive question, what is going on in South Korea?
Well, I'm not so sure that the current president is accused of corruption. There's something which is not very clear about it, because it is clear that her assistant, her friend, is accused of corruption, clearly. The managers and the businessmen who apparently bribed her also are accused of that. But the president, mainly the main accusation is that she was careless and she was naive. It is not so much of a legal issue, it is more of a confidence issue. It's a bit different.
And yet the people are asking for her to step down. Weeks of protests, we've seen so many going on. And now South Korea's finance minister is also voicing some concern. It seems this raises maybe the obvious conclusion that a strong political leadership is necessary also for economic growth.
Well, I think the economic story here can't be overlooked. Park Geun-hye, the president, was elected 4 years ago ago on the promise that she would reform the major conglomerates that dominate the South Korean economy. What you've seen, South Korean economic growth has slid percentage point by percentage point over the last few months, over the last few years, and she hasn't had a chance to reform these companies. The opposite, the corruption scandal that's taking place, suggests that she participated in acts of bribery and graft with these companies. So what South Korea needs now, facing diminishing exports from a slowing global growth economy, facing significant dangers from household debt. The Bank of Korea is meeting this Friday to decide about the interest rate, and they, on the one hand, need to lower interest rates to promote growth. On the other hand, they can't do so because they'll contribute to a further problem of the major household debt problem the country is facing. What they need is, as you said, they need strong leadership. They're not going to get strong leadership from the president right now. There actually is no prime minister and finance minister right now in South Korea because of the corruption scandal, and they face major geopolitical and geoeconomic threats from China, from North Korea, and increasingly from Washington, from the new administration of Donald Trump. South Korea needs leadership, and it doesn't have any.
Well, one other thing that she hasn't had the chance to complete is, of course, her 474 vision. That's 4% growth, 70% employment, an average per capita income of $40,000, to quote accurately. Now with this corruption scandal and her offering to step down, is this program dead?
Well, I'm not so sure that it's dead. It depends very much on the identity of the one who will take place after her, and it will take time. Only in the beginning of January, they are going to decide in the parliament what are the steps that they are going to take, whether there's going to be impeachment or something else. And then after they've decided, it will take a little bit of time to do whatever is necessary, and only then they will declare the new elections. Nobody talks about the elections, but until the moment that a new president is elected, nothing will really change. And a part of the challenges that Sam has just mentioned, Korea is facing, well, part of that is that Korea is facing the same problems that America and Japan and Taiwan are facing, which means decline of exports, as he said, and it's part of a problem of all the rich countries. Korea is one of the rich countries, industrial, prosperous, and expensive. And the president was trying to run some reforms about it. The new president will have to think whether he's continuing her line or starting something new.
I would just to add something quickly. I think if we want to get a sense of what's going to happen in South Korea over the next year or two, I think consider Brazil's corruption scandal, which had a number of interesting parallels to what we're seeing now in South Korea. Not only a female, of course, head of state, but ties into major conglomerates, corruption, political, economic decline from growth rates, of course. Look at Brazil, but also much more concerningly for South Korea, look at Japan in the 1980s. Aging economy, over-reliance on manufacturing, leverage of global financial bodies that could really weaken the economy. That is the danger they're really looking at in South Korea. Are they going to be the Japan of the late 1980s? And is the dream that South Korea has rode for the last few decades going to come to a crash?
I would add to this something else. It is very important the fact that we are dealing with a president woman. We haven't seen many leaders, women in East Asia. Nearly all of them were daughters of a leader that opened for them the door, including the current one, the Korean one. The only exception that we have is the leader of Taiwan. And if we are seeing that the great anger against the president with the not so clear accusation that she's facing, maybe the fact that she's a woman in front of a very traditional country adds to these flames.
Well, I'm still keeping my hopes up for a successful female leader in South Korea or anywhere else in the world.
Taiwan is a good example.
Sam Chester and Reshef, thank you very much for joining me for this.
You're welcome.
And that concludes the Economy Magazine. Stay tuned to I-24 News.